a win. Yes, I'm in the garage today. Typically I'd like to be in the kitchen, obviously, when I'm doing some cooking, but my wife has kicked me out of the house. She's doing painting. So I get to make venison jerky while she paints the inside of my house. I call that a win. So the best part about this recipe is that it's really easy to make. You don't have to spend much money on the recipe itself. Really the hardest part is getting the deer meat. The recipe comes from a lady that used to live down the road from us. Her name was Bernice Saraki. She was a very nice lady and she passed this recipe on to my dad. And really when we were growing up, it was the only way he made venison jerky. To be honest with you, it's the only way that I make venison jerky. Now I've had plenty of full meat dehydrated jerkies before, but nothing quite lives up to this. The taste is phenomenal, and maybe it takes me back to my childhood, but I don't change it up because why mess with success? I'll leave a link down below for the exact recipe. I know a lot of people don't want to give up recipes. I'm telling you, this is so simple. It's not gonna be anything that you're completely shocked by. There's no secret sauce or anything like that, but it's really, really good. So the first thing you need to do to make venison jerky is kill a deer.
We completed our mission.
Or steal some meat from a friend. So there's white wine vinegar, liquid smoke, pepper, salt, soy sauce, Worcestershire sauce, Worcestershire, and brown sugar. And then obviously we talk about the cuts of meat to use. Please, for the love of God, do not use a backstrap for this. Do not use a backstrap. Please. Please don't. I'm sure it would be fine, but you don't need to. There's plenty of cuts on the deer that are gonna work fine for making jerky. The general rule is, the leaner the cut, the better. So today we're gonna use the bottom round and then part of the top round, which is a pretty lean cut. And I'll show you how to clean those up in a little bit. You don't probably want to use like a sirloin tip or something like that that has a lot of sinew in it. Something that's not really super fatty. Most of the meat I've kind of cleaned off already before I vacuum sealed it, and we're just gonna clean off just a little bit more before we start cutting it. All right, so now I'm gonna show you how to cut up the meat to get the perfect strips for your jerky. So you can see when I pulled this out of the freezer that this thing is cleaned up pretty well already. You see maybe a little bit of silver skin there that we're gonna take off. It might just be easier to take that off as we're cutting it into strips. The biggest thing that you wanna think of here is just making sure that you're cutting this in uniform lengths, uniform widths. So we're gonna cut this approximately 1/4 inch thick. You can cut it with the grain or against the grain, and that's kind of a personal preference. With the grain, you're gonna get maybe a little bit more of a chew, more of a strand. Against the grain, when you take a bite, you're just gonna get the piece that you bite off with. I'll probably tell you, I am not going to really pay attention to that today as much, as I'm gonna be more concerned with getting more uniform strips and everything into a 1/4 inch. So traditionally, deer fat does not taste very good. I'm sure there's people out there that like it. To me, it's kind of waxy, kind of an off-putting taste. We try to clean that off as much as we possibly can. Like I said, there isn't much to clean off on this one already. My brother, when he freezes meat, he leaves a lot of the fat, or at least the silver skin on it, because it just serves as another protective layer with the freezing process. When I'm cutting up venison jerky, I like to leave it a little bit frozen. This is maybe a little bit firm, so when we're cutting it up, it's not gonna fall apart. So we're gonna start with this piece here, and we're just gonna start cutting our kind of 1/4 inch strips, okay? Obviously a sharp knife works pretty good. And then that end piece, before you kind of square it off, is gonna be a smaller piece. And that's kind of what you're looking for there. 1/4 inch thick, pretty much all meat, no sinew, no fat. So, I did buy a bag of this. I do not intend to use this. This venison has been freezing in my freezer for almost 6 months now. When it comes to any type of foodborne illness, when you talk about bacteria versus parasite, typically if you freeze something that long, it's going to kill the parasites, not necessarily killing the bacteria. So you might be taking a risk by not using a curing salt. Now curing salt's good because sometimes it can bring out flavor. It's a preservative. It's also going to increase the shelf life of your jerky. So you can use this, listen to the directions. Typically for a pound of meat, it's just under like 1/4 of a teaspoon. Today we are going to omit this. So for approximately 3 pounds of meat, which is what we cut up today, you're gonna have 1 tablespoon of liquid smoke, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of vinegar, 2 tablespoons Worcestershire sauce, 1/4 cup soy sauce, 1 teaspoon pepper, and 1 teaspoon garlic powder. So we're gonna get everything in a bowl here, whisk it together, and then mix in the meat. Now I'll tell you one thing, you're gonna wanna glove up when you start to mix this in with the meat. Why? Well, that liquid smoke is quite potent. And you get that all over your hands. Your hands are gonna smell like it for, I'm not kidding you, 3 or 4 days. You know, women aren't gonna leave you alone. Men aren't gonna leave you alone if that's your thing too. I ain't judging. But seriously, wear some gloves. All right, so all we're doing is taking the liquid, pouring it in. Now I've got approximately 3 pounds of meat here. I'm not saying it's precise. I didn't weigh it. I've done this enough times to kind of know how much meat I need for this specific recipe. Let's say you come up a little bit short. You know, maybe there isn't as much fluid as you would like. Add a little bit more fluid. Maybe you like soy sauce. Add a little bit more of that. Add a little bit more of the Worcestershire sauce. Probably wouldn't add much more of the vinegar. You could even add a touch of water too, just to fill it in. So this looks like it's gonna be a good amount. And then we're just mixing this up good with our hands. So we're gonna leave this sit in the refrigerator overnight for at least 8 hours. There's been times where I've let mine sit for at least 24. By the time we get to this tomorrow, it's probably gonna be sitting for approximately 12 hours. And I think that's gonna be long enough for the meat to soak in. We're gonna finish mixing this up. We'll pop it in the fridge. We'll see you back here tomorrow. We throw everything on the dehydrator. All right, so we've had our jerky marinating for the past 24 hours. Everything's looking really good. We've got the dehydrator that's probably from 1992. I think it was my grandmother's and it was my dad's, and now I have it. Still works good. One thing you need to know about this is that not every dehydrator is created equal. Obviously a newer one might be a little bit better at dehydrating things. And then you also need to take into account the air. So today we're gonna be doing this in the garage. It's a little bit humid in here, so I expect it to take a little bit longer. I've done this inside before. I've done this outside in the winter time. I've done it during the humidity of the summer. It seems like it changes a little bit. I'm kind of excited for my garage to start smelling like jerky. Most people might not like that, but I do. All right, so you can see just how moist the meat actually is. There are times where I'll take this out and lay it out on paper towel. That can get to be a little bit of a mess. The paper towel sticks to it, and I don't really like doing that. This meat is actually soaked up pretty much the entire marinade, so it's going to take a while for it to dehydrate. I'm okay with that. I've got all the time in the world. It's not like dripping wet or anything like that. So we're just gonna end up throwing this right on the racks. I've also got my pepper here. The bottom 2 or 3 racks, I'm gonna actually put a little pepper, cracked pepper over the top of it, and then I'm gonna leave some of them just with the regular marinade. There's already pepper in here, but I kinda want that extra pepper effect just on about half of it. All right, let's start loading this in. You obviously wanna try to get as much on there as you possibly can. But you want to try to keep separation from all your pieces. You don't want them all sitting on top of each other, because the point is you want to get airflow through there. That 3 pounds of meat fit in here perfectly, and we've got some decent spacing. So what I would recommend is once you plug this thing in and you start it up, is you come back every hour and a half, 2 hours, and you check it. For the most part, it's just set it and let it go, but you don't want to sit here and let it set for 10 hours and come back to little crispy bits of venison jerky. So we're gonna go ahead, plug this bad boy in, and come back every couple hours and check it until it's ready to go. All right, our jerky has been on the dehydrator for about 8 hours. I've been checking it about every 2 hours, and then I checked it about an hour ago, and it was getting pretty close to being done. So let's take a look and see how it's coming along. And we're gonna snag this piece here. So you want it to the point to where it breaks off easy. You can almost hear it just kind of starting to snap, and you should see those strands coming off there. That's when you know it's kind of done. You don't want it too soft. And again, this is a preference. Some people like their jerky maybe a little bit on the chewy side. It is jerky after all. And then some people maybe want a little bit crispier. Let's give it a shot. Man, it's delicious. It's chewy because it's jerky, but it's not too chewy. There's certain tastes that take you back to a place and time. I think wild game probably does that more than anything else. When I eat this jerky, I feel like I'm back home, sitting in mom and dad's kitchen. Dad just came out of the garage, took this off the dehydrator. It's a little bit warm, and it's honestly nostalgic. So we'll finish up this piece, vacuum seal the rest of it, throw some in the freezer so we can save it for some of our fishing and hunting trips. One of the things I love about jerky is that it's portable and it's easy, it's light. You can take it with you when you're hunting, when you're fishing. It's a great snack. If you got a cooler full of stuff, I guarantee you people are gonna reach for the jerky or the snack sticks before they reach for anything else.